Just last week, I was talking to a $1.5 million yearly brand that thought they were making $6 a unit when they were actually making $3.50. And many brands are very similar to that based on our experiences talking to them, not understanding the full grasp of the Amazon fees and how complex they can be. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down what Amazon fees exist, the very obvious ones, the less obvious ones, and what at Voadera we're doing to help mitigate them or get around them as much as we can. I'm Jason Mesa, CEO and founder of Voadera. We've sold hundreds of millions of dollars on the Amazon uh, platform and other marketplaces, and we've dealt with Amazon fees changing many times over the years. So if your sales have been going up for a long while, but you're not seeing that money in the bank or your profit isn't, it's probably because of stuff in this video. So stick around. I'll go through a lot of them, and I'll also say actually one thing that just saved us $15,000 last quarter, mitigating these fees as well. The truth is, many brands don't understand the complexity and nuances of Amazon fees, and this could be purposeful by Amazon as well, because there's fees at many different parts of the ways. It's not just when a transaction occurs. There's other fees that I'm going to be explaining later, but it's just understanding the unit economics and the fixed fees and the variable fees that come with selling on Amazon and other online marketplaces as well. But obviously Amazon is the most complex because it is the most established, and understanding the unit economics is obviously very crucial, because then you can understand how much you can spend on advertising, packaging. Understanding your numbers lets you know how much leeway or runway you have in other areas. Otherwise, we've seen also brands unfortunately go belly up and bankrupt because they thought they had room, and then 1 month later, oh, we're just tight on cash flow, we're just tight on, but they don't have a cash flow issue, they actually have a profit issue. And then unfortunately they had to eventually close up their shop and move on to something else, or start all over. So hopefully, within understanding the different fees here, you'll be able to avoid that for yourself and get to a better understanding of where you stand. To start off, I'm going to be doing a quick walkthrough of the fees. I'll start with the more obvious ones, obviously, and then I'll get into the ones that are more hidden or people that are not familiar with it as often. So the first one is obviously the basic referral fee. This is just a fee to sell on the Amazon platform. This is 15% usually of a sale. It's obviously less for different products. Recently, Amazon, for example, faced some backlash from Temu and Shein, so they lowered it for lower priced items, the referral fee, to be competitive with them. But overall, it's 15%. You could think, just go to Amazon, Google sell with Amazon fees or something along those lines, and you'll see what it is per category. It differs. I think electronics is less, other categories it's more, but generally, it's usually, rule of thumb, it's around the 15% of the revenue. The next one that's obviously very common, especially for using, obviously only for using FBA, is it was known as a pick and pack fee. Now it's a fulfillment fee. It changes around there. It depends. This one varies a lot by the size and dimension of the item, rather than the category what we mentioned earlier. Now it's more about the dimensions. There's different tiers. There's small. There's basically the standard size tiers. There's apparel and footwear, and then there's oversized. Those are the most common one. There's obviously flammable and hazmat and other stuff, but you can assume that obviously it would vary significantly from standard to oversized, because this is what Amazon charges you to pick the item and to ship it to the end customer from their fulfillment center. Obviously, if you're using MF, merchant fulfilled, you can avoid this, but that comes at a huge cost. You're also going to lose conversion rate and other stuff. So these two are very obvious. You can see them on the manage inventory dashboard. There's a fee, and those two will always pop up, and they happen when the sale happens. Then there's other fees. For example, there's a monthly, you have the option between two. You either pay a dollar fixed item fee, or you can pay a $40 professional seller fee. Obviously, if you're selling at least 40 items a month, then it's 100% worth it to get the $40 monthly subscription to Amazon to sell, to avoid that $1 fixed cost on every item. But that's also another thing that's available as well. Then we get into stuff that's a little bit more hidden or less understandable. We have storage fees. So there's different storage fees. There's LTSF, long-term storage fee. Now they're also changing the name to inventory age surcharge fee. Surcharge fee. And this is usually when the item is sitting at Amazon warehouse for very long. They keep on changing the period. Initially it was a year, now it's 9 months, now it's 6 months. So they change the period based on how much capacity the Amazon warehouses have. But it's basically something that you pay, a fee that you pay. It's fixed fee that happens on a monthly basis for items that have been there for a long time. And they change what a long time means depending on their capacity. The other one is just the standard monthly storage fee. Again, this is only for using Amazon fulfillment centers, but unfortunately, it's very hard to compete if you don't use Amazon fulfillment centers, just because you have a longer wait time. Reportedly, there's a 14% less conversion rate, sorry, between the regular FB and MF, but we'll get into that later. But then there's a monthly storage fee. So for us, this actually triples. I'll get onto our numbers shortly, but this triples in October, November, December. So, but the standard months, I think you can also obviously find this on the website, but it's depends on the size of the item. It could be a couple cents a month to obviously dollars an item per month that you're paying for it to stay at Amazon Fulfillment Center. For us, this bill I think last Q4, between just in 3 months, was around $500,000. So if not more actually. So this is very, very significant fee for us. We obviously have hundreds of thousand units at Amazon warehouses, but just to give you an idea that it's a very significant fee, the more items, the more storage you have there, and also something to be accounting of. Next, we have inbound shipping fees to Amazon fulfillment centers. So this includes inbound placement fees, which they just introduced March of last year. So this is a fixed per unit fee, depending if you want to ship it to one warehouse or numerous warehouses. You can technically opt out and ship it to numerous warehouses under certain conditions. But then the other part of that fee is actually the shipping cost itself from your facility or from the manufacturer to Amazon. So if you opt out and ship it to numerous Amazon facilities, then you're just going to pay more to ship it to one place. That's something to keep in mind as well. There's obviously ways to reduce costs from your facility to Amazon, especially if you're shipping in bulk, thankfully, which we are. We've saved tons of money shipping in bulk. We've been using Amazon Freight, which has been great for us, but also even using AGL when it's coming overseas, which has offered great rates, to be fair to them, in the past. But being smart with this, and I'll get into some of this cost savings later in the video, but just keep in mind that shipping to Amazon has two parts. It's the inbound placement fee, but also the shipping cost itself, which is basically the transportation fee from taking from your warehouse to Amazon facility. Then we obviously have a big one, which is marketing. So this, now Amazon has become a pay to play. I've talked about this many times. Unfortunately, especially in the latest years, Amazon, I think, is making, I forgot the figure, but I know it's billions of dollars in revenue from marketing revenue. So this includes stuff like PPC, Vine, giving out free products. PPC is the most obvious one, but now they just introduced new coupon fees, lightning deals. They're charging a percentage of sales rather than a fixed 60-cent promotion. They just introduced this like 2-3 weeks ago. Even though they said they weren't raising fees this year, then they just said it's for FBA only, not coupons. So they found a way around it. But marketing fees are also becoming exorbitant. So that's something to keep an eye on, whether it's brand fees or DSP or all that kind of stuff is obviously becoming much, much more relevant. Then we also have just miscellaneous fees. So this is if you want to do a removal order, bring something back from Amazon's warehouse to yours. There's even a return fee. So if a customer returns an item to an Amazon fulfillment center or yourself, they do refund you the pick and pack, sorry, not the referral fee, but you're not refunded. For example, you're still charged a fee for Amazon to process that return. There's also other miscellaneous fees. They're becoming creative with them, but basically you can find them at every corner. There's something that lies. Those are some of the more common ones: the removal order, return processing, and some of that stuff. And then there's obviously the external SaaS to operate on these marketplaces. So using like Keepa, Helium 10, etc. Those are all monthly subscriptions that you also have to account for in your P&L and make sure that you're absorbing them, and to understand what's your unit economics after, post all of that, to understand how much leeway you have, of course. So that's a big rundown of the major fees. Now let's talk, obviously I mentioned a lot of fees that are associated with FBA, the inbound placement fee, the FBA, the pick and pack fee. You could say, well, I can just do that in-house. So, and do MF. We do MF ourselves for certain products. But the truth is, when an Amazon customer sees a product arriving same day and they see another product that's going to take 3 or 4 days, your conversion rate is going to be much less when they see that ship time. There's a lot of options for customers on Amazon. You have to win the customer. You have to pick at every edge to win him. So that's where you have to push for having everything done right. And having a longer arrival time to the customer to try to avoid FBA fees is a double-edged sword. And this, other than the fact that you also are still going to have technically storage fees, just going to be your warehouse rent. So there's substitutes for it. So it's not like they just make up a lot of these fees, although sometimes we feel like they try. But there's a replacement for these fees. So a pick and pack fee is going to be basically your fee to ship it to a customer. That's UPS, FedEx, etc. They call it a pick and pack. So just keep that in mind as well. There's substitutes for these fees, but then there's also the conversion rate that you lose, but also even the operational taxing you're going to take, the employees, the additional resources and employees you have to take. Even right now with the mainly FBA operation, we still have almost 50 to 100 employees that are basically working in our warehouse, even with FBA. So imagine if we're doing it MF, I'd guess we'd have to have probably around 2,000, honestly, with all the workload and the units that we have. Last year we sold over 1 million units. So I'm assuming that would obviously take a big operational workload. Before I got into what we do to avoid these fees, I just wanted to reiterate something very important. Not understanding your fees is extremely dangerous. You could go belly up, God forbid, or anything along those lines. You don't understand your margin. Even if your margin is very thin, a small change, right now we're experiencing big changes with the tariffs, but even a small change, just Amazon raising a fee a couple points, does that mean your product is no longer profitable? Understanding what the implication of stuff is, because profit is the oxygen of the business, and you have to make sure that you're continuously understanding how much can you afford for an employee, a brand manager, all that kind of stuff. The first thing is very important to understand your unit economics. How much are you making per unit? What if you did that as a bundle? How about a virtual bundle product? All that kind of stuff. There's huge implications. And like I said, a big misconception that I see a lot of brands run into is thinking that they have a cash flow problem, but they really have a profit problem. And just make sure you understand the difference. Let's talk about how we mitigate some of these. The biggest thing that we've been doing lately that's been really helpful for us, so there's a few, but I'll get one of them, is obviously supply chain optimization. One thing that Amazon's gotten better at is with the availability of much more warehouses, it's been easier to ship our products to Amazon FBA and a little bit cheaper actually. Even though there's inbound placement fee introduced last March, they offered alternatives. The biggest one is Amazon Freight and AGL. They've offered great rates for us. Even Amazon Freight LTL, they just introduced that a few weeks ago. We've been using it. Funny enough, no one's probably going to believe them, but we got quoted less than $5 a pallet because the facility was really close to our warehouse then. So it's unbelievable rates. They're probably trying to encourage people to use it. I'm sure they'll raise the prices later, but that's just one thing to kind of keep in mind. But usually, obviously, it's still you're still going to pay the normal rates for a lot of things. But those programs, especially when used in bulk, we're shipping a few truckloads out of our different operations, our 3 or 4 warehouses across the U.S. a week. So we get bulk rates. We try to optimize those. We obviously try to avoid inbound placement fees when we can to send to numerous warehouses at a truckload. So that's also something that we've been doing a lot. And this year we're projected to save over $300,000 to $400,000 just by the supply chain optimization and getting smarter with that and getting more dynamic. Most importantly, using SPD when we have to. Amazon just broke its deal with with UPS. Not broke the deal, but they altered it significantly, where we're getting much worse rates on SPD and UPS, which encouraged us to go with LTL and Amazon Freight, or just Freight in general, FTLs. And that's been great for us because we've been saving in bulk. We redesigned our operations to be able to optimize for that. But that's a big thing that we've done. Another one is fee auditing. So looking at your fees, Amazon sometimes misclassifies something as a standard size and an oversize. It's called Cubiscan. It's a known process. Other stuff is like other fees that's wrong is they misclassify into the wrong category. So another category has a cheaper percentage fee than another one. You could save 3% a sale on each one. So if we're selling an item, we had an item that was selling for around $90. So 3% is around $2 and maybe 70 cents, 80 cents a unit. And if we're selling 1,000 a month, that's $2,700 a month, 30 grand a year almost, just saved on that reclassification. So fee auditing is something we do continuously. Another one is obviously just making sure we ask for reimbursements. Amazon loses products in their facilities. There's also there's different types of reimbursements. There's lost inbound, there's lost and damage. So making sure you have a wide array of the aspect of things. Another one is reclassification of your product. So we talked about the pick and pack fee being based on the size of the item. We recently changed the dimensions of one of our products. It was a kid's toy. It was oversized, and all we had to do is one of our employees actually caught it. We gave him a big shout out. We had to change just an inch and an inch on 2 different length and height, I think, and we reclassified it to standard. The difference was from $13 in oversized to $7. So $6 in units and pick and pack fees, which is monumental. We can use that $6 in other areas, obviously Amazon PPC, etc. So that's a much better use of it. The next one is obviously inventory management, making sure that we don't have more than, let's say, 80-90 days of inventory at Amazon warehouses. We store units either at our warehouses or at 3PLs that cost $13 a pallet per month, which is nothing. I'm guessing Amazon, if we stored inventory FBA, would be $100 a pallet a month. So just keeping what we need at Amazon FBA FCs, obviously predicting seasonality, being really good with that. We never want to run out of stock, but that's also something to keep in mind. Doing stuff in-house, so we that's why I said we have a warehouse staff for FBA. We're still stickering finesse SKUs when we have to, doing 2D box content, all that kind of stuff to avoid Amazon charging us those fees, and doing it in-house when we can. Basically, they charge like 55 cents a unit, so it's crazy. So it costs us around 10 cents a unit, so we're saving on that as well. Another thing that we're doing is also basically positioning for premium packaging. We don't want to be just basic another product. We put premium packaging, we put premium quality. We advise our partners on how to redo their products to get that premium positioning, so we can ask for higher prices and make sure that we're positioned in that way in the market, so we can demand those prices because of the quality of our products. If our competitors have a 4.4 star rating, we're aiming for 4.7, 4.8 based on the quality, the positioning, the feel, etc. And obviously, most importantly, is just understanding our numbers, knowing where the leaks are happening, know what we can do to optimize that, and everything along those lines. So all in all, we just just have to understand that Amazon fees aren't just basic. They're not just like the standard ones, they're referrals, pick and pack. They're very nuanced. There are different stages of the sale process, different stages of the sending in process. So understanding where they occur, understanding how it's impacting your numbers is extremely crucial for a healthy, long-term, sustainable growth business. If you enjoyed this video, I think you're going to enjoy this mini growth series. I talk about how you can grow your sales in a healthy way, hopefully cheap ways that you can basically through conversion rate and click-through rate and everything along those lines. Also, if there's any fees that I missed, feel free to drop them below. I'll take a look at them and analyze those. And if you like this kind of video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more of this.